Board members, advisors, staff, on-site visitors, and online listeners. Our agenda with links to all board materials is posted online at www.ncpublicschools.org at State Board of Education meetings at the top of the page. I note that there is also a link to audio streaming by scrolling to the bottom of the agenda. Our agenda for this meeting was approved yesterday, so we will proceed today under that agenda. Our official board meetings are held on the first Thursday of the month, and it is the day that the board takes official action on its agenda items. All of our committees' meetings were held yesterday for detailed discussions along with informative and insightful issue session on the topic of chronic teacher absenteeism. Today's agenda includes special recognitions and presentations as well as committee reports and voting on action items. Our special presentation today will be a very special guest, Margaret Spellings, President of the University of North Carolina System. We are delighted that she has made time for us in her hectic schedule. We had to reschedule her from our snow out meeting in January. I note also, ladies and gentlemen, that at the close of this meeting today, the board will elect a new vice chairman as a consequence of Vice Chairman Buddy Collins' announcement of his resignation from the board effective April the 14th.
Boo.
Following the election of a new vice chairman, we will close the meeting with a resolution honoring Vice Chairman Collins and his service to the board. I will now read the ethics statement that is required of us. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. I recognize Mr. Greg Alcorn to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, you've had an opportunity to review the minutes that were posted on the e-board. If there is no request for any changes, I ask for a motion to approve the minutes that are posted for our March 2018 monthly meeting and our March 19th, 2018 conference call meeting. Motion by Ms. Willoughby.
Second.
Second by Mr. McDevitt. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no. The motion stands approved. Before I introduce our special guest, she's accompanied by one of our beloved former board members, Kevin Howell. Kevin, where are you? There you go. Always hiding. Doesn't want any attention drawn to him.
He's on the phone.
Great to see you, Kevin. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a very distinct pleasure this morning to be joined by the University of North Carolina System President Margaret Spellings. President Spellings has enjoyed a remarkable career in education at various levels of involvement and in varying levels of the education systems in our country. She is viewed as a thought leader and public policy expert. She brings to the University of North Carolina system extensive experience at the highest levels of the United States government. From 2005 to 2009, she served as the U.S. Secretary of Education, overseeing the creation of the Spellings Commission Report on Higher Education. This report recommended a national strategy for colleges and universities to prepare students for the 21st century workforce and for implementing the bipartisan No Child Left Behind Act in public schools. From 2001 to 2005, she was Chief Domestic Policy Advisor for President George W. Bush. Before her service in the White House, Spellings was Senior Advisor to then Governor Bush of Texas. And she led governmental and external relations for the Texas Association of School Boards and held key positions at Austin Community College and with the Texas Legislature. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming President Margaret Spellings, who will share with us many of her initiatives since becoming president of the UNC system.
Thank you, Chairman Kobe. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your leadership of this board and your many years of service to our state. Superintendent Johnson, Mark, great to see you again. Members of the board, thank you for your service. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I feel like I'm in my own stomping grounds. I actually visited this building, obviously, since I've been here in North Carolina, as well when I was Secretary of Education, and I was reminded that you all had a delegation that I'm told was the bus from hell. Yes. Tricia, when you all came to see me as Secretary about implementing No Child Left Behind. You know, Texas, I'm off the script now, Texas and North Carolina were really pioneers around a lot of education reforms, and so we have been simpatico for a long time. I hope you agree that North Carolina has, without question, one of the finest university systems in the nation. I know that many of you are alumni of this outstanding system, and I know that there's at least one faculty member involved on this board. It is not an accident that we are as fine as we are. It is a result of an enduring partnership with our legislature and consistent support over many decades and even centuries from the citizens of this state, who have long understood what an important game changer higher education is. We are good, we are great, and we're getting better every day. We have raised our graduation rate more than 6 percentage points in the last 5 years. We've increased our annual outside research funding by more than $300 million. Today, we net $1.5 billion in research investments every single year, which does more than just educate folks. It, of course, drives our economy. We're filling jobs in vital fields, producing nearly 21,000 graduates each year with degrees and certificates in health sciences, engineering, and STEM, an increase of 29% since 2011, not an accident. We're graduating nearly 20% more low-income students each year than we did in 2011. And thanks to the legislature's strong financial commitment, tuition for North Carolinians is flat or falling at every one of our institutions. We are getting stronger, but it's no cause for complacency. As I like to say, we are pleased but not satisfied. The question before us now is how we uphold our core mission in this rapidly changing world. And importantly for this body, how does our continued success depend on preparing students early in their career for a lifetime of continued learning? What is the responsibility of higher education institutions outside of those students who walk our halls and beyond the years they study in our lecture halls? North Carolina is the place where we can, where we must answer that question. Our state mirrors the most significant trends affecting the country: a political background with shifting demographics and an economy that's growing well but unevenly. The university system is, as UNC President Bill Friday famously said, a mighty engine for shaping these forces. And over the years, that engine's power has come from a willingness to adapt and change. Land-grant universities expanded our idea of all useful learning well beyond the classical liberal arts, recognizing higher education's role in a modern economy. Campuses were transformed once again when the GI Bill expanded our vision of college, ushering a broad middle class. And the struggle for civil rights established the opportunity to learn and achieve as a birthright of all Americans. And today, we're embracing a legacy of thoughtful change as we set higher expectations for ourselves and our state. As we move ahead, there are three big issues that keep me up at night but also give me confidence in our mission. And while these issues profoundly impact higher education, they are issues that matter greatly for our entire educational continuum, from pre-K through higher ed and into the workforce. That first issue is economic mobility, to me, the defining issue of our time. We all believe that the American dream holds that talent and hard work lead to a better life. But when that belief begins to fray, we all suffer. Our politics become more troubled, and we fail to tap the talent we all need to thrive and survive. Our region, from Southern Virginia to Mississippi, is struggling with mobility. Children born into poverty in the South have strikingly low odds of bettering their lives. In North Carolina, our metro areas rank among the worst in the nation for upward mobility, with cities like Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro, and Fayetteville all in the bottom 10% of America's metro areas. But we have the power to change that dynamic because higher education is a proven route to economic mobility. When we meet our core mission, reaching talented students from all backgrounds, getting them in the door, and helping them graduate, we change lives, lift families, and transform communities. This is an access issue. Earning a place in college must not depend on the color of your skin, the income of your family, or the zip code where you grew up. But it's also a student success issue. Your odds of graduating should depend on work ethic and academic performance, not your parents' resources. And of course, it's a community impact issue. The jobs created by our alumni, the health care provided by our hospitals and medical graduates, the new industries developed by our researchers, they all improve the quality of life for everyone, not just those who study in our institutions. But the disparities and achievement gaps impacting upward mobility are a long time coming. They don't start at age 18. That's why we have formed the My Future NC Commission to take a hard look at how North Carolina can harness the entire educational continuum from pre-K through post-secondary and into the workforce. Today, we are just one of 5 states that lack a statewide goal for how many of our citizens need education beyond high school. And that must change. And I'm grateful that Superintendent Johnson is one of the leaders of this effort, along with nonprofit, business, faith, and education leaders and representatives from the House, Senate, and Governor's office as we advance that work. At the end of the year, the Commission will set a statewide goal for the percent of North Carolinians that need some form of education beyond high school. It will also lay out benchmarks to hit along the way, targets for 3rd grade literacy, 8th grade proficiency in reading and math, college readiness, and so on. And finally, it will recommend the policy reforms and initiatives necessary to achieve those goals and targets. I'm not a believer in college for all, and I don't know any university president or business leader who is. But I am a believer in education and training beyond high school for everyone, whether that's on a campus, on the job, or through military service. We must have a system that works better for every student, not just those who are likely to attend a 4-year university. We must build a college-going culture, one that puts college within the reach of every North Carolinian. But it also must be a culture that encourages and integrates a wide range of options, from apprenticeship programs to college credit for military service to on-the-job training that counts towards a degree or certificate. And this all starts with a strong public school system. which is why strengthening our K-12 schools and supporting the work of this board is a major focus of my future NC. It's also a major focus of the UNC System's Colleges of Education. We're proud of the nearly 40% of our state's teachers that we prepare. In fact, on average, our teachers outperform their peers. To make sure we're doing all we can, we recently commissioned a look under the hood at our colleges of education to see where we can improve. Because, put simply, our achievement gaps are too large and proficiency levels too low for us to be content with the overall quality of our schools and teaching. What the review found was that we often don't prepare our teachers well enough for them to be ready on day one to implement the evidence-based teaching practices that can help a struggling student learn, or use the classroom management techniques that can control an unruly or unproductive classroom. We must better incorporate state standards into our curriculum. We must ensure we teach the interventions and strategies backed by sound research, and we must strengthen our partnerships with school districts and increase in-classroom experience for our teacher candidates, and do it earlier. This is a personal priority for me, and I'm optimistic about what we can do. I'm grateful for the strong support of our Deans of Education and for our Teacher Preparation Advisory Board, co-chaired by 2 UNC system leaders, as well as former CMS Superintendent Ann Clark. It's going to take hard work to help ensure every North Carolinian, regardless of their background, is ready for whatever educational option fits their needs and allows them to earn a good job and a shot at the American dream. And it's going to take all of us working together to do it. Progress will also require holding our own feet to the fire, which is why accountability is the second key issue for the UNC system. Higher education has suffered from a send us the money and leave us alone kind of attitude. What we do is legitimately hard to measure, and many of the benefits we bring to individuals and the broader society take a long time to measure. So we've told people to trust us. But I believe that era is over. In K-12, that era has long been over. The extent to which measurable student outcomes drives policymaking might still be a point of contention, but it forms the core of your discussions and debates. That same shift has come to higher education and is overdue. Done right, better data and higher standards are tools for greater flexibility and better decision-making at every level, whether it's teachers, principals, and superintendents in K-12, or deans, chancellors, and system presidents in higher education. Accountability doesn't hinder talented leaders, it lets them work more effectively. For the UNC system, that's what our strategic plan is all about, and why it won unanimous support from the Board of Governors just about a year ago. Since then, we've signed 17 customized performance agreements with each chancellor in the system, all of them embracing measurable outcomes as a route to excellence. Each institution's progress, along with the system as a whole, will be on display in newly launched data dashboards showing the public how we're doing. But to truly understand our own operation, evaluate our programs, and drive better decision-making, we must also reform and align how we currently collect and act on our data. Frustrating data systems and a persistent lack of useful information is a problem that's familiar to this board. As you all know, we've made progress on our P20 data systems, but it's far from enough. That's why the UNC system has made data modernization our top priority for May's legislative short session. And that's why we're committed to projects like our partnership with DPI and the National Student Clearinghouse to track cohorts of students across K-12 and into post-secondary education so we can better identify gaps and barriers and address them. Recently, on the national stage, we've seen a deeply discouraging retreat on shared standards and accountability, and that includes a retreat in our K-12 schools. I understand better than many the frustration with tests and metrics and the appeal of the rhetoric about local control. But blaming data collection for the failings of education, I believe, is just shooting the messenger. Our bottom line matters. but so do the values that are hard to show on a dashboard. Fulfilling our historic mission to advance the public good is our third and in many ways the most fundamental issue we face. A great many of the people in this state who run businesses, teach our children, heal our families, enrich our culture, and set our public policy will pass through the doors of our universities. What we teach, the behavior we expect, and the standards we model as teachers and public officials help set the tone for our graduates and the world beyond. That's an enormous responsibility and one that you share. What we do every day as educators and public institutions matters. We must stand behind the core values of free expression, intellectual diversity, and patient engagement with new ideas. Our campuses bring together people from different backgrounds to gather in the same place, debate the same books, and navigate the same social life. A college education remains one of the most integrated and intellectually demanding experiences in American life, as do our public K-12 schools. Integrated school districts have driven social change for decades. Public schooling has long shaped minds, worldviews, and perspectives. It's an intense responsibility for us as policymakers to support those environments. Our students recognize the privilege of thinking and learning. They want to live up to that gift, to leave the world in better shape than they found it. That's clearer today than it has been for decades, as the passion and outspoken activism that's often been more at home in higher education has emerged in full force in our middle and high schools. What's apparent to me is that anyone who says students have lost their heads or their desire to be good citizens isn't paying attention. And I promise you this, our students are paying attention to us. They're watching how we lead and govern, how we engage in public debate, and how we adapt to the needs of our time. And it's up to us to show that public institutions are an ally in the effort to make a better world, that public service is honorable and effective, that trust in our fellow citizens and faith in the country that unites us is vital to any vision of real progress. Leading the UNC system and its thousands of faculty and staff who come to work every day in our labs and classrooms, on our police departments and maintenance crews, in our hospitals and health clinics, I'm inspired by their drive to make a difference. And their impact is far-reaching, all across the state in all 100 of our counties. As a board, I know you see the same thing in school districts across the state. Our job is to enable that good work and build a college-going culture that encourages every North Carolinian to see education beyond high school as pivotal to their futures. Cultivating higher expectations is what leadership is all about. If we can elevate the expectations of the people around us, excuse me, progress will follow. We need your help to make that big lift here in North Carolina, to aim high, using education's power to supply opportunity and support society, and holding ourselves accountable to meet those goals. This will be a major priority for me in the coming years. I'll be making the case to the people of North Carolina that higher education is not an elite luxury, but a tool for all of us, something that's within reach and relevant to the world we're facing. UNC System President Friday used to issue a powerful challenge to students, and one that I love. Every morning, he said, 1 million North Carolinians get up and go to work for wages which leave them below the poverty line, so they can pay taxes that finance the education you receive. Your job is to figure out how you're going to pay them back. I'm proud to say that we have been and are answering that call. And together, tackling the full continuum of learning, we'll be standing together in a few years to report an even stronger, more prosperous state of North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, President Spellings, and would you be kind enough to come forward and have a photo with the whole board and advisors?
It would be my high honor, Bill. Thank you. Love to do that. Are you the choreographer? Good to see you.
So we're gonna need to do 2 rows. Yeah. Short in front, tall in back. I do, but that's okay. Somebody's gonna listen eventually. So we need 2 rows, short in the front, tall in the back, please. Yeah. Let's have everybody move.
Does that mean me? Yes.
Okay.
I'm so fortunate to be short.
Slide on down.
Let's have everybody squeeze in. Yep.
And 1, 2, and 3, and one more. 1, 2, and 3.
Perfect. All right, you'll get to work. Good to meet you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
See you later. Right.
They would like to ask, I'm not sure. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great way to get started. Always need some inspiration. And now we're going to get some more inspiration because we've come to our special recognitions, and one of our recognitions will actually involve connecting with the honoree by Skype.
That's right.
This will be the first instance that we have connected in this manner at an official monthly meeting. So let's hope that it'll all go smoothly. Okay. For these 3 important recognitions, I recognize Dr. Maria Petrie Martin.
Good morning, Chairman Kobe, our state board members, advisors, and of course, all those assembled. I am so honored today to be a part of the School Library Media Month recognition. The American Association of School Librarians started this recognition in 1985, and the theme for that first recognition was Where Learning Never Ends. The School Library Media Center is certainly a place that serves as a safe haven for many of our students in our schools. And today we are so fortunate to have Ms. Kathy Parker, who is our School Library Media Consultant, who will introduce members of our state association and talk with us about this recognition.
Good morning, and thank you for having us today. I have the great honor of serving the school library media field for our state as the school library media consultant for the Department of Public Instruction. And I'm really excited to kick off School Library Month with the North Carolina School Library Media Association. So I'm going to introduce you to this organization. Our state is very fortunate to have this organization that serves school library media stakeholders across our state. And they do this in a variety of ways. Many of you probably are familiar with their much beloved literacy competition, Battle of the Books. They have it for elementary, middle, and high school levels now, all across the state for the last month or so. our students have been battling it out and appreciating literacy as a result. They also provide professional learning opportunities and leadership opportunities for library media coordinators in our state, and they advocate for effective school library programs, which we know are crucial for student learning and teacher effectiveness in our schools. So I would like to begin our School Library Month celebration by introducing you to Dr. Kevin Washburn, who is the Legislative Committee Chair for NCSLMA. So I will turn it over to Dr. Washburn.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My colleagues and I are thrilled to be with you today. Again, I am Kevin Washburn. I'm a school library media specialist with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, and I work at Alexander Graham Middle School. I am the legislative chair for North Carolina School Library Media Association. And today I want to talk to you about the great work that we're doing across the state to transform libraries. Many of you probably remember your first visit to a library, and you probably recognize that when you visited the library that it was a place of wonderful resources, that it was very quiet, and that there were rules to follow, and that you had very high expectations for what was going to happen in the school libraries. Well, libraries across North Carolina that students and staff use have transformed. And we have created a short presentation for you that shows you this amazing transformation.
The School Library Media Center is an integral part of today's educational strategy. This essential resource enables students to leverage the advances in technology and personalized learning while continuing to develop and strengthen their lifelong reading habits. At the heart of the Media Center is the School Library Media Specialist. As an instructional leader, this individual will collaborate with classroom teachers, providing instruction and real-world learning experiences for students to master critical 21st century skills. The School Library Media Program provides open access and equal opportunities for all students to use library resources, educating students in critical thinking and problem-solving skills that are essential for career and college readiness. The student-centered, curriculum-relevant, and continuously updated information resources, reading materials, as well as information technologies ensure that North Carolina students have the best chance for success in the future. The School Library Media Specialist is a visible and active leader advocating for the human, physical, and financial resources needed to ensure that students have the materials, tools, and technology they need to learn. This important function includes engaging in community outreach activities, creating awareness, and building support for the school library media programs. Please support our North Carolina School Library Media Centers, where they are transforming to build a brighter future for today and tomorrow's students.
Now we will hear from Crystal Joyce. Crystal is a school library media coordinator at Old Richmond Elementary School with Wake Forest Forsyth County Schools.
Good morning. Just wanted to let you know that research shows the highest achieving students do attend schools with well-staffed and well-funded school libraries. Students make almost 1.3 billion visits to school libraries during the school year. That's the same as attendance made to movie theaters in 2014, and it's 4 times as many visitors to national parks. But the downside is cutbacks in school librarians may be yielding unintended consequences. According to a recent study by Stanford University, more than 80% of middle schoolers cannot tell the difference between sponsored content and real news articles. And now we'll have a short video from Jason Reynolds, who is our spokesperson.
I'm Jason Reynolds, and admittedly, when I was a kid, I didn't spend much time in the school library. But that's only because I had no idea that school libraries are as amazing as they are. 20 years later, now what I can see and begrudgingly admit to myself is that school libraries for many, many students are places of refuge. The school library serves as a safe bastion for kids who just want to feel less alone. They're also places of recognition where young people can come in and see each other, create networks amongst one another, and see their faces and their stories and their names on all the books on the shelves and all the other creative components that libraries now offer, including technology. Also, they're places of research. Obviously, everybody knows you go to the school library to find out information, but that information usually comes through a specific conduit, a special resource, and that resource is the school librarian. Now,
And at this time, I would love to bring up our North Carolina School Library Media Association President, Renee Duggins. She is currently school librarian at Oak Grove High School in Davidson County.
Good morning. On behalf of the North Carolina School Library Media Association and school libraries all across of North Carolina, we want to thank you for your support of school libraries and being there and supporting us and advocating for us as well, and also in your support and recognition of April being School Library Month and being here and allowing us to come and talk to you today. So thank you so much for your support.
So I will do the honors today of reading the School Library Month proclamation. Whereas April has been designated nationally as School Library Month since 1985, and whereas school libraries provide materials to meet the individual needs, varied interests, abilities, socioeconomic backgrounds, and maturity levels of the students served, and whereas school libraries connect teachers with resources to use to personalize learning for their students, and whereas school libraries offer safe, engaging, and collaborative learning environments that encourage knowledge creation, and whereas school libraries provide resources for students to use to meet their college, career, and life goals, and whereas school libraries enable students to access, evaluate, and use information to be digitally literate citizens, and whereas school libraries supply books in a variety of formats to support literacy instruction and encourage students to read for pleasure, and whereas school libraries help bridge the digital divide and close achievement gaps. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the North Carolina State Board of Education and North Carolina's Superintendent of Public Schools declare the month of April as School Library Month, and thereby encourage each of North Carolina's local school boards to adopt a similar resolution and to participate throughout the month of April in celebrating school library programs.
Okay, at this point in time, I will entertain a motion to approve the proclamation. Okay, motion by Ms. Willoughby, second by Mr. Davis. All in favor of the proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. No, the proclamation is approved unanimously. And thank you very much.
You're supposed to go up for a photo. You're supposed to go up quickly. Quickly.
Great to have you.
2, and 3.
Yeah. Thank you. Our next recognition is, it's always a great honor to have students with us today. So I'm extremely proud of this recognition as it represents our commitment to the goal of preparing our students for citizenship. The U.S. Senate passed a resolution in 1962 creating the United States Senate Youth Program. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this program. As a way to provide an opportunity for our talented young people with demonstrated leadership abilities to deepen their understanding of America's political process and strengthen their resolve to pursue careers in public service. Each year, 2 high school juniors or seniors are selected from each of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the Department of Defense education activity to attend a week-long extensive government and leadership experience in the nation's capital and receive a $10,000 undergraduate college scholarship, which is exciting as well. So today we are so honored to have the 2 students who are recognized for the state of North Carolina. And I bring up Ms. Faye Gore, our section chief for social studies. This is the area within NCDPI that helps to facilitate this program.
Good morning, and thank you. It's always a pleasure to stand before you, especially when we're recognizing students. Before I begin, I would like to recognize Michelle McLaughlin, who is the coordinator for the North Carolina program. If she would stand, as well as our entire K-12 social studies team, because they helped to select these wonderful students that we're honoring today. And it's also important to note that our model has been recognized as one of the best in the nation, touted by the U.S. Senate Youth Program's National Director. So it's an honor that we're still doing some great things in North Carolina. The 2 young men who served as the 2018 delegates to the U.S. Senate Youth Program are indeed exceptional. First, we have Mr. Bennett Tillerman, and if he would stand along with his father. He's from Providence High School in Charlotte. He is following the footsteps of Mr. Joseph Chong, also from Providence High School, who was recognized last year, if you recall that. His principal is Tracy Harrell, and superintendent for Charlotte-Mecklenburg County Schools is Dr. Clayton Wilcox. Please stand. If you, oh, you're already standing. Thank you. Bennett has always been interested in politics. He currently serves as the president of the North Carolina Teen Democrats. He has been civically engaged in volunteering with local campaigns since he could hold a yard sign. He volunteers with local science museums and debates competitively. He was especially excited about his experience during the week in Washington, as they exposed him to ideas and conversations that will inspire him with innovative ways to bridge the gap between political parties so they may work together to find solutions to issues in the community and the nation. If we could model that, that would be great. Thank you, Bennett. The next young man who will be recognized is Mr. Luke Holden Talinsky from Charlotte Latin School in Mecklenburg County. If he could stand to be recognized with his mother. His headmaster is Mr. Arch McIntosh, and the head of the upper school is Mr. Lawrence Wall. A junior at Charlotte Latin School, Luke is an active member in student government. He serves as a junior class senator. Outside of school, Luke continues his passion for government by participating in congressional debate, a form of debate in the style of the debates that occur during the U.S. legislative process. He is ranked 9th nationally, demonstrating his mastery of critical policymaking thinking. Luke volunteers in the local middle schools of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system and teaches debate to interested students. Luke is passionate about education and involved in several grassroots programs in the Charlotte area dedicated to making a difference locally, especially around the issue of economic mobility. So there's a connection to Dr. Margaret Spellings. We ask that you both proceed to the front to be photographed with our State Board Chair and our Superintendent and our Vice Chair. Thank you.
Name tags off.
Yes.
Tags off, yeah. Look like you're at home. Smile, Eric.
And 1, 2, and 3. And one more. 1, 2, and 3.
We'll roll a white.
So we are prepared to move to our third recognition, which is also quite exciting. It was mentioned earlier that this will be the first time that we are virtually bringing our awardee to you today. We are very honored, as we do each year, to present you with the North Carolina Virtual Public School Teacher of the Year, and she has an outstanding resume. So Dr. Liz Colbert, our Director of NCVPS, will come forward and she will introduce this outstanding teacher.
Greetings. I'm very excited to introduce to you the North Carolina Online Teacher of the Year. And we wanted to do this virtually for a few reasons. One, people often ask me, what is it like? What is it like in the online classroom? So we're going to get a sneak peek of what it is like for you to see inside an NCVPS classroom. And like all classrooms across our state and nation, teaching and learning is different with NCVPS than perhaps other online schools. So this is a look at how NCVPS does this. But first of all, I wanted to let you know that our online Teacher of the Year process begins much like the face-to-face with peer nominations for this award. For NCVPS, that's no small feat. 800 teachers are employed with NCVPS, so to become the Online Teacher of the Year, it's really a great honor. We have an interview process, a digital portfolio before our final selection is made. This is Costin Daugherty. She is a graduate of East Carolina University, where she was part of the Teaching Fellows program. She is currently enrolled in the Masters for Online Teaching and Instructional Design program at Lenoir-Rhyne. She is a mom, and she is a military wife. Her husband is a Marine. So the benefit of working for NCVPS is every time her husband was reassigned, she could maintain her employment. And not only maintain it, continue to grow and excel in the online classroom. So we are very proud of that. I also want to introduce James Bell. He is here helping me with the technology. Many of you know James.
Yes.
He's the 2008 North Carolina Online Teacher of the Year, and we're lucky. I'm sorry, regular face-to-face, now online. Sorry, that. And James is helping us with the technology because James and Costin both run our teacher and training program. So they work together to make sure the new teachers coming into our online school are equipped and prepared to do this job well. And like Margaret Spelling said, we are providing access to courses for students, high-quality courses, regardless of zip code. So North Carolina is already doing that work, and we're proud to be a part. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
I'm assuming the phone system works.
Yes, so we're using the phone because of the size of the room, in case you all want to ask a question or someone down here wants to ask a question. If this room wasn't so large, we could just use the computer, but because it's so large, we're going to do phone and computer.
We're hoping that by using the phone, those of you at the really cool microphones, the really cool chairs, will be able to ask Costin questions if you want to interact with her. So, Costin, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can. So, from Tennessee, guys, this is Costin, our North Carolina Virtual Public Schools Online Teacher of the Year. And, Costin, it's all yours.
Good morning. I am extremely excited to be with you virtually this morning. I am unable to be there in person. My husband, as it was mentioned, is active duty, and I'm going to mute or turn things down. There's a little bit of feedback. My husband is active duty, and for the last 10 years, we have moved 7 different times, moved to 4 different states, and North Carolina Virtual Public School has been with me through 6 of those years. I am currently living in, can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're okay.
Yes.
I am currently living in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, but we live on the Tennessee side. Okay, good. Sorry. There's a chat, and so I just want to make sure because there was some feedback. So I want to make sure you can still hear me. We live right outside of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, so outside of Nashville, Tennessee. So I am coming to you live in the comfort of my own home. For those reasons, I'm also pregnant with my 3rd little girl, and I am unable to travel out of a 2-hour radius right now. So I have a 7-year-old daughter in 1st grade and a 4-year-old daughter who I am praying does not run behind me at some point. Scream happens to a flash of red hair. I apologize. I can only control her for so long. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about my experience with NCVPS, some of the things I do in my classroom, as well as some of the programs and opportunities that we offer our teachers. Margaret Spelling just talked about how we have to properly train our teachers in order to really make our students successful, and I feel like that is something that we excel at NCVPS. We have excellent professional learning. We also have excellent support. So these are some things that should be noted about our organization. Not only do we meet the needs of all students, any learning need, any accessibility issue, we're able to meet them where they are. We also make sure that our teachers are properly trained so that we have successful students. And the one thing that we say is that strong teachers make successful students. And that's something that we are producing every day with every cohort of teachers that come through our training. There's a couple statistics as far as online education. The World Economic Forum says that the internet is actually now considered a life skill that all students, people in general, will use on a daily basis. They predicted that by 2026, as much as 90% of our entire population will have internet access. In 2014, 5.8 million students were enrolled in an online course, and that averages to be about 1 in 4 students will take an online course at some point. So these are some things to keep in mind. I know with NCVPS it's often talked about what do we do for our students? How do we meet them? How do we make sure that they're successful? Because there are so many students that are now taking online classes, organizations like NCVPS aren't just like a passing fad. We are needed. And with that need, we have to have strong teachers. So we have teachers that are equipped to work with students that are in our Flex Learning program, which could have students that are going through chemotherapy. They are professional athletes, and they can't be in the regular classroom. They may be homebound. We have our traditional AP students. We have autistic, hearing and vision impaired, a magnitude of, or multitude of learning disabilities, and we train our teachers to be able to meet all of their needs. Our teacher and training program is 16 weeks long. It is a rigorous coursework that they spend 8 weeks in a course with me as a mentor and cohort, along with 2 other of my colleagues, and we are kind of the trifecta of making sure that all teachers going through our NCVPS online education program, that they are trained properly and that they meet all of our pillars and all of our needs. So they spend 8 weeks one-on-one with us, learning the ins and outs of NCVPS and getting a student view of everything. Then they spend 8 weeks in a veteran teacher's mentor class where they do live student teaching with kids that are in online courses, and they have a mentor. And so 16 weeks, 4 total months of just learning about our online organization is what is required. Online education is often a foreign concept for some teachers. Those that are just come out of college, they get this digital literacy. They get, all of the web tools that are available. But those that may have been in the classroom for a while or have never thought about online education learn so much about what we have to offer. We continue to support our teachers even after they finish their 16-week program, and they may get a section teaching their own students. There is never a point in your career or employment with NCVPS that you are left alone. There is 100% support from instructional leaders, instructional directors, from our professional learning team. We continue to offer ways for you to grow, not only as an online educator, but many teachers will testify it makes them better face-to-face teachers using some of the methods that we teach in our teacher and training program, and through our professional learning. I mentioned for 10 years I've been a military spouse. It got increasingly harder for me to keep a face-to-face job when we were moving every 6 to 8 months at a certain point when my husband was going through some Marine Corps training early on in our marriage. So after we had our first daughter, I left the face-to-face classroom. My mother, who's actually a media coordinator, and had started to become familiar with NCVPS through her school, mentioned, why don't you check this out? So I did. And since 2011, I have worked with NCVPS, and it has moved with me through the many states that we have lived. And there has never been an issue of me maintaining valuable employment. I worked really hard at East Carolina, and so it was important for me to continue to work, in my field. And so NCVPS met me along the way, and it has been nothing but a saving grace and a blessing for me over the last 6 years. So I thank you for your time. I know there may or may not be a question that you want to ask, but I do appreciate you allowing me to talk with you today about me and our program and what we can do for teachers in general across North Carolina and other states.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for giving us a couple of moments to take a moment to honor Costin. We often talk about at NCVPS how one of the things that we do is we tear down arbitrary lines. The opportunities that we provide a student at a Charlotte-Mecklenburg are going to be the same opportunities that we provide a student at Perquimans or Gates or somewhere lost in the Northeast. And Costin's a perfect example of that, because we do that not only as for our students, but our teachers do that as well. So she's across an arbitrary line. I mean, it's Tennessee. Yeah. But so thank you guys very much for the time. If you have any questions, we have Costin all day. So if you would like to ask her something, we have it online for a few more minutes. Costin, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
I want to take a picture.
Yes, we want to take a picture too.
Oh, that's
Go up there.
You don't have to take a picture. If you don't want to. Now, please,
Let's make
let her
sure
know we're
Costin
taking a
knows.
picture.
Yeah, hold on one second.
That's smile.
Hold on. Smile, Costin. There you go.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Great addition.
Thank you. Superintendent Johnson, I recognize you for the superintendent's report to the board.
Thank you. I think we'll just take just a minute to switch over the technology. Take your time.
Has left the conference.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of fun reports to share today. As the board knows, we've been making strides to bring art more purposefully into this building. And we already have such lovely displays of visual art all up around the building and in the hallways and on mobile art displays. We had our first non-Christmas performance come in, and when all these performances come in for Christmas, it's just so wonderful to fill the halls of DPI with the musical talents of students across our state. But it's also one thing I realized when we did it at Christmas, it means so much to the students and the staff that come in and perform for us that we wanted to extend that all year long. So for our very first one, we invited Swift Creek Elementary School, and we're going to be continuing this, I think, about one a month. And I just want to thank everyone who's been working to set this up, and thank all the DPI staff that come down to enjoy it. It is wonderful to be able to keep this going through the year and just really highlight not just the importance of arts in education, but also get that connection with students and schools into DPI in a more tangible level. We also had the Conference of Connecting Communities of Education Stakeholders. This is the once-a-year conference where we have education stakeholders from local districts and schools come in from around the state. And what we're really working on is, as we talk a lot about, fostering innovation and connecting pockets of really good innovation that may be occurring in the east or in the coast or out west or in urban areas, getting everyone into a room so they can share what innovative practices they're working on. And really, this is being a launching pad of scaling innovation across the state. Really good things that are working in our schools. And I just want to thank everyone at DPI who had a part in putting this together. It's a very big operation, and it occurred in Greensboro. Luckily, it started after our snow last March visited Greensboro. So we had a very captive audience inside the convention center that had nowhere else to go. So that worked out well for the convention. Everybody got in and was able to leave right when they had to. We visited Alamance Burlington schools. We visited some great innovative practices there, and this is right after we announced that every reading teacher in North Carolina who teaches kindergarten through third grade would be receiving $200 worth of supplies for reading for their students. And the class we visited just could not resist the temptation to take a picture of the big check with us. And I think they were very excited about seeing a big check and all the resources it meant for them. And then we went out to the coast and we visited Union Elementary down in Brunswick. And they were, we visited on the right day to go to the coast. They were having their dolphin party because they're the Dolphins. You can see it's a great innovative practice they have where they actually reward the students occasionally with, after working really hard in class, they actually had a glow stick dance party, which I believe Isaac, who was with me, has some video of me awkwardly not dancing with third and second graders while they were, I think they were doing the cha-cha. I'm not sure, but they did not, as much as they were trying to get me, Isaac had the camera, so I had to make sure that was not captured. So we had a great visit there. Again, really a lot of appreciation across the state for the work we're doing here in this building to support the work they're doing in their schools. And then we went up to Wilmington to Mary C. Williams Elementary, where again we had a class that was very excited about working with their teacher to decide what resources they would use that funding to purchase. And finally, when it comes to around the state, we ended before spring break visiting Williamsburg Elementary in Rockingham County. Williamsburg actually holds the distinguished title of oldest public school in North Carolina. Obviously, physically, the school is not the oldest public school, but it is on the same site where the first public school in North Carolina is located. And the reason we highlighted that is because we received a call from the White House asking for us to pick who would design the Easter egg that would be on display for North Carolina and representing the entire state at the White House for the Easter egg roll celebration. And we decided that it would be very fitting to have Williamsburg have that honor. And you can see here is a picture of them holding up the design they worked on with their art teacher. I'll note they were limited in colors, so that is why you have the special Easter yellow cardinal. But they definitely did a great job representing the state. And my favorite part, the reason that you have an elementary school design the Easter egg is because obviously front and center is the state reptile, the box turtle. And I don't know if anyone else would have been as daring to put a box turtle onto the Easter egg. So we were very grateful for that. Now we will switch over. I believe we're streaming live on Facebook because we are going to pick some prizes for the completion rates for the Teaching Working Conditions Survey. The Teaching Working Conditions Survey, first I'll give a little bit of background. We were the first state in the nation to start doing this back in 2002, and it is given every 2 years. And it's a long survey. It takes a bit of time to complete, but it really dives into asking teachers and educators their viewpoints on their working conditions in their schools. These results will be posted online. It will take a few weeks for us to work through all of them, but we will have that. And really, the best way for us to know how to support teachers starts with listening to teachers. And this is a great tool that technology allows us to hear from every single educator across the state. So let's start with the big burning question: what were the overall results? I am excited to thank everyone who took part and took the time to complete the survey. We broke records this year. We had over 100,000 respondents. We actually had 109,449 educators take the time to complete this survey. Just putting into perspective, that is an unbelievable response rate and an amazing testament to our educators using this tool to tell us what they think. I mean, almost 110,000 people took the time to complete this survey. Really want to thank everyone who took the time. You know, we challenged North Carolina to get the top percentage rate for completion of 91%, just over it. We actually just missed that by about 500 educators. 500 educators from reaching that 91% and beating Kentucky. But I will point out, again, how exciting this is. Even though we fell about 0.5% from beating Kentucky, we actually have about 3 times the number of respondents that Kentucky has for their completed survey. So at that 110,000 is definitely something to celebrate. And in the light of celebrating it, a lot of people are probably wondering, I know at least a lot of people in this building are wondering if I will run the Krispy Kreme Challenge. Yes, I have decided that because we had such an overwhelming response this year, I will run the Krispy Kreme Challenge. Although it is still, we're still going to wait and see how many donuts I'll eat in the Krispy Kreme Challenge. If we hit that
100,000 at least. At least the number of teachers that responded.
I think if we hit the 95%, I could have gone for the dozen. But maybe we'll work on something that we can put something out there to see how many donuts I'll have to eat. But the other option someone floated is I could either just run the 5 miles or just eat a dozen donuts. But school nutrition probably would frown on the latter. Yes, and I know, shout out to Alex Granados. I think he has already volunteered to run beside me as we complete this challenge. So luckily I have months and months to train, and I can train while eating donuts to see what I can actually handle there. So lastly, we cannot go on without thanking the staff here at the Department of Public Instruction that coordinates this effort, and especially Cynthia Martin and her team here at DPI. Thank you so much. Again, it is pretty remarkable to step back and realize that we had a survey that can take 20 to 30 minutes to complete and really dives into working conditions, and we had 110,000 educators complete that survey. So very, very proud of that. So let's get to some prizes. Every time we do this, we have a few prizes, and we're gonna have those go out now. We've already announced prizes for the first schools and districts to reach the 100% completion. These schools and districts, which I'll read, I want to thank the North Carolina Association of Educators and the North Carolina Business Committee for Education. They are actually the groups that put up the money for these prizes, and we are very grateful. And also the North Carolina Association of Educators is key in helping implement this. They actually have representatives at schools that help motivate teachers to go on and take the time to complete this. And they actually also serve on the committee that helps get the message out and actually draft the survey and take back feedback and build that into the next round of surveys. So, without further ado, I will announce the schools that were the first to complete. So each of these will be provided $1,000 from our sponsors. The elementary school is Bruce Drysdale. That's in Henderson County. The middle school is Clarkton School of Discovery. That's in Bladen. The high school is Camden Early College. That's in Camden. And the charter school is Fernleaf Community Charter, which is also in Henderson. And then the district is Bertie. So thank you all for hitting the ground running. And as soon as it opened up, we had schools and districts run and complete this. And now we will do the drawings. So every school or district that reached 100% completion, as soon as they did it, we marked the number of weeks, and if they did it at first, they'll have four of slips thrown into this basket, and if they did it on the second week, they'll have 3. If they just did it, they'll have one. So the odds are better if you complete it earlier. So I'm going to actually get the help of some people around the table to announce these winners. First off, again, we want to thank the sponsors who even make this possible. So first, I'm going to ask Jeff Coltrane from the governor's office. If you would just come up and you can, the pressure's on you. You get to pick a school. Sure. Actually, Chairman Covey, do you want to read them? So you have the honor of picking. Chairman Covey's going to have the honor of reading.
The first winner is Catawba Elementary School, Catawba County Schools.
Great. Thank you. And a representative from the NCAE, Angela Farthing, is here. Would you please come up and do the honor of picking for the next drawing?
What do they win?
This is the money prize. So the schools will get the money to do with what they wish. Thank you.
J.W. Kuhn Elementary, Cumberland County Schools.
All right, now, of course, Miss Godwin, come on up. You get to pick one. Our NC Teacher of the Year for a few more weeks. Can you believe the year's already? Can you believe the year's already up?
Your own school. Reach in there and get your school.
My school's Jacqueline Edwards.
Reach in there and get that.
Central Cabarrus High, Cabarrus County Schools.
And Principal of the Year, Mr. Jason Griff, will you come up?
Hopefully I'll draw my school.
That might be a conflict of interest. We didn't think that one through.
Northwoods Park Middle, Onslow County Schools.
So that, we still have one more prize. That's the drawing. The last prize is the Nick of Time Award winner, and this is $500 for the last school in the state to reach 100, which should not be underestimated because we were definitely picking up the phone, calling superintendents and principals. So we're very happy. If you get 100%, you get 100%. And that will be Orange High in Orange County. They got their last survey in at 6:23 p.m. yesterday, and they reached 100%. So thank you all very much. Thank you. And so with that, we'll end the Facebook live streaming, and we'll obviously, the winners will be posted and sent around. But again, thank you for all the educators who took part. And thank you for our generous third-party sponsors who helped put up that money to help give some prizes for completion. Thank you. And that completes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Johnson. Board members, we have now come to our consent agenda. What?
Questions? Is he gonna have questions?
Oh, yes.
Well, Mr. Superintendent, last month I had asked you for to be prepared this month to tell us a couple of things that you have learned on your listening tour. I know you said you would be doing that for the first year and then shaping your priorities around what you have learned. And so that was, last month I'd asked you to do that, and also I'd asked for you to give us a list of the committee members on your Student Health Committee, because that report was originally due April 1st to the legislature. I know you said you were asking for a postponement, so I'm not sure when that report's due now.
I don't have the list of all the people on the committee with me, but we'll make sure you get that. They have been reached out to, and we are going to be working on something where we present my legislative priorities based on what I've been seeing on my listening tour.
So neither of those you have today?
Oh yes, we'll get you the name of the mental health today. If you would like for the board to hear from my listening tour.
Well, I asked that last month. That's what I was asking.
We can put that on the board agenda. I come every month, and every month I talk about where I've been, and that has influenced the decisions that are being made in this building. So if we want a formal board agenda item, we can work on that. I'm happy to.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought your report was a formal agenda item that we had every month, and
it is.
That's why I had asked.
And every month I talk about where I've been and what I've seen and all the great things that are going on in our public schools.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, because I know that originally you were not very optimistic about the changes that we've made in public education over the last 50 years. So I'm very happy to hear that. As I said yesterday, I think you were in the room when I mentioned that I really appreciated your support for the teacher working conditions survey, because we are a state with a long history of that, but the substantive things that have happened due to that survey are really important, and the way we work to ensure the anonymous aspect of participation are really important. So I just want to emphasize that, and I hope that your student health committee is interacting with the legislative created school safety and health committee that Speaker Moore established.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Hopefully by next month, perhaps as part of your report, you could tell us a little bit about that.
The safety piece?
Yeah, but they've also included health.
Yeah, I've got, mine is, might be more appropriate at another place, but I'll ask here, and then if we need to move it to the budget thing. We've got well, first of all, let me ask this one. This is a little bit in the weeds, the grants, the $200 grants. As I recall, that is based on a policy change we made back in November that did both the reading piece and a professional development piece as part of that. That was money that I guess carried over from year to year. Does that money, it is not?
No. If in previous years, this department did not use that money, so that money did not make it to classrooms.
So that money is part of an appropriation?
Yes, called Read to Achieve. It's a great program by the NC General Assembly.
So you're saying the Read to Achieve money was not spent on the earlier piece, and that was, as I understand it from reading at least some of the quotes, that was because Governor's Budget Office did not allow them to use it according to that. And again, that's based on those accounts.
No, that's incorrect.
And even named the individual who turned that down. So
that's incorrect.
Okay, so that press report on that is not correct.
Correct.
Okay. So my question though is the professional development piece. Are we moving forward with that piece as well?
Yes, we have not finalized the details, but we are in works for more professional development, high quality professional development for reading teachers in North Carolina.
So does that money revert? I mean, is it?
No, we're going to use it. It is meant to support literacy in classrooms, and we are going to use it.
I think you answered the question, and that is that, by June 30th and really by the 1st of June, which is here essentially, as it relates to getting that money out and to be spent, my question is that, are we going to, I don't care whether we have an approval process on that. I care more that it's that we know what it's being used for.
Absolutely.
That we're able to help them. I had superintendents that read in the paper the $200 piece, and I think since then the directions and the way to spend the money has been, I think, updated. But there are calls to me where we've read this. What we want to know is what's our role in this. And I think that's been updated. That's about 3 weeks old, and so my hope is that that the professional development piece, and I've dealt for many years with this end-of-year stuff, and it is amazing how quickly the end of the fiscal year can go, and then we don't get the money out, and it's not, not in this department.
That has happened in years past in this department.
Professional
and it's not gonna happen again.
So you got a professional development plan that's gonna distribute that money?
Yes, absolutely. That money is meant to get to classrooms to support students in early childhood literacy. And in years past in this department, it has not gone to those classrooms. And under my leadership, it will.
Remind me, on the reading of the ones that the checks you've been distributing, there are other pieces to that, aren't there? There's like a $400. Sorry, I should know that. There's some other pieces that go to that, master teachers or something in that regard. Is that right? All that's being distributed. That's my real question. All that's getting out there in a timely way. That's
Yes.
a question. Okay. So my second question. This is, Mr. Chair, where I was saying that it might be appropriate in other places. Is we got a legislative session coming next month. And, you know, we've been through last month the process of submitting to the governor's office their request for the board's, what was it, $170-some million, Greg?
Yes.
And so we've done that, which I'm assuming is aligned with priorities. A second piece are the cuts that we've got to deal with in the second year. And you made recommendations on the cuts for the first year, and that was last year. And so we've got that coming, I'm assuming, by June 30th. So that's a second process in the budgeting process. Third one is audit that you are working on that I think is due to the legislature May 1.
Yes.
So that's before we meet again. And then, of course, the fourth and fifth process, I assume, is this board's legislative request and your legislative request, and hopefully at least some alignment of priorities there. Aligning that with potential federal cuts that where there are priorities in the state, how we step into those gaps where those are being assessed and needed. You know, you look at those, and some of them, you know, obviously the budget process there is a little later, but there's after-school programs and early childhood and Medicaid and HHS and other things. So, what are we doing to assure that our budget requests and the needs are there, including, I mean, I'm delighted with what you're doing with art in the building, but arts teachers, are we going to be asking for arts teachers for in our budget request? Well, I don't know whether that's the board, Greg, or his or both.
Yes, you've already sent over your budget requests, and
that's to the governor's office.
Yes, yeah. And he'll be looking at that budget request to put in his budget request for the budget.
Right. Yeah, but we also will carry one to the legislature too, or at least traditionally we have. So, are we coordinating this?
Nope. I don't think we've got an action plan for putting together a budget. You know, we have not done a contingency plan on if the cuts actually happen, at least from a business operations committee standpoint. No, sir.
That's all I've got, Mr. Chair.
Well, then, board members, we now have come to our consent agenda. These items have either been on the discussion agenda in a previous month or are routine reports to the legislature and similar items. If there is no request or comment regarding any of these items, I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda that represents items from the following committees: EI, CS, ES&P, SLA, and HRS. Okay, motion by Mr. Davis, second by Ms. Willoughby. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no. Motion stands approved. Okay. Mr. Alcorn, I recognize you for the Business Operations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Greg Alcorn, Chair of the Business Operations Committee, along with Todd Chastain as vice chair, have 2 actions on first read. First is Biz Op 1, which is the school nutrition equipment assistance grants. And we heard a presentation by Janet Johnson yesterday about 40-plus schools receiving over $800,000 total among those schools for equipment grants, with an emphasis on local foods and being able to do that. And I bring that as a motion to the board.
Motion by Mr. Alcorn, second by Mr. Chastain. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no. Motion stands approved. Mr. Alcorn.
Biz Op 2 is to the Joint Legislative Education Oversight Committee report relative to school bus driver compensation and employment. We heard from Kevin Harrison about the importance of school bus drivers and the critical needs that they have in that report, and I'd like to bring that report for approval to the board.
Okay, motion by Mr. Alcorn. Second. Second by Mr. Chastain. All those in favor of approving the report, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no. Motion stands approved. Mr. Alcorn.
The board did receive and was public on the board, on the e-board, the contracts, and so any updates on contracts, if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to ask. That concludes our committee report.
Dr. Oxendine, I recognize you for the Educator Standards and Practices Committee report.
Thank you, Chairman Kobe. I am Olivia Oxendine, and I chair the Educator Standards and Practices Committee. Joining me in that role is Mr. Eric Davis. The first item is an action item. It was presented yesterday by Dr. Tomberlin, ES&P 1. It pertains to LICN 001. I move that we approve the 6-month credit for experience rule as presented in LINC 001, and this approval of this passage of this motion will align policy terms pertaining to licensure with those in school business services.
Okay, motion by Dr. Oxendine, second by Mr. Davis. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no. Motion stands approved. Dr. Oxendine.
Under action on first reading, there are 2 items. The first item was taken up in closed session yesterday and approved by this board. I will go on to the second item under action on first reading, ES&P 3. This item was presented to us yesterday by Dr. Andrew Syberg. It is a draft application for entities in North Carolina as well as out of North Carolina who wish to prepare educators in North Carolina. That application is very timely, thus the reason it's under action on first read. So I move that the board approve the EPP application intended for entities who plan to prepare educators in North Carolina.
Motion by Dr. Oxendine, second by Mr. Davis. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed, no. Motion stands approved.
Several discussion items from ES&P 4 to ES&P 9. ES&P 4 is pertaining to LICN 004. The transfer of relevant information on the beginning teacher support program is now going to be placed in a different location under teacher education. Everything pertaining to policies around teacher education. ES&P 5 contains all requirements pursuant to the beginning teacher support program. Again, all of that is now located out of LIC in 004 and in teacher education policies. ES&P 6, this policy outlines the requirements for professional educators to convert to IPLs to CPLs. ES&P 7 pertains to LICN 006, and it goes into some detail as to the calculation for determining credit for work experience. And this policy is very, very important because it will help our LEAs make decisions around salary, teacher salary and pay. The next item, I know I'm flying through this. ES&P 8 pertains to LICN 007, and procedures for revoking or suspending teacher license. ES&P 9 is pertaining to 0 to 1 exemption for seeking exemption from licensure requirements, and there is the removal of some specific language that has to do with board approval of a request from anyone needing additional time to complete their licensure requirements. But the removal of language has to do with the removal of the 3-year window for completing those course requirements. All of these items will come back next month for action. That completes my report.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Oxendine, and we're going to take a 10-minute break now before we move forward.
June never heard a single question asked about anything. Don't worry about it. One time.